everyone, and happy 2019. This is the 9th Partner in Action webinar. And for those of you who are new to the call this evening, this is the foundation of the Partner in Action webinar, which comes from the communication model, Predator, Prey, Partner. This is a body of work was developed by my sister, Pat Kirkland. And feel free, if you want to know more about Pat or her work, you can always visit her website, which is patkirklandleadership.com. So it looks like we have a nice group of people that are going to, as opposed to the mean people. The mean people didn't show up tonight. That's nice. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Nicola. If you'd give us the technical points.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. A few things for you to take note of. This call is audio only and the session will be recorded. So if possible, please make sure you're in a quiet spot. And in order to keep the quality of the line high, please use a headset and mute your microphone when you're not speaking. I will also be muting you automatically, so don't worry if you slip up and forget how to do it. If you're calling in from a landline phone or a mobile phone, you can press *6 to mute yourself and then *6 again to unmute. If you're calling in via your computer or iPad directly through Zoom, click on the microphone symbol in the bottom left corner of your screen to mute or unmute. To raise your hand, if you want to ask a question or make a comment, you can click on Participants and then Raise Hand, or you can use the chat box, which is also found at the bottom of the screen. That's it for now. Back to you, Amy.
Thanks, Nicola. And as usual, this call is going to be semi-interactive. It'll be part discussion, part coaching. We're going to be looking at a couple of the communication challenges that were submitted by some of you on the call. It'll also be a combination of laser discussion and spot coaching specifically on the behaviors and the mindset that are discussed in the Predator Prey Partner program. And whether it's a challenge you submitted or not, you're welcome to participate in the discussion and volunteer to be coached if you like. Or I may ask you if it's okay for me to coach you, and you are welcome to say, "Thank you, not this evening, Amy." You may be doing some writing during the call, so feel free to grab a piece of paper and a pen. And as usual, make sure you're not driving a vehicle when doing this. So we're going to be focusing on success stories, challenges, and then questions, comments you may have. You can ask a question, as Nicola said, either make a comment by raising your hand via the participant icon or use the chat box. Both are in the toolbar in the bottom. And the other thing to keep in mind is whenever you have the microphone, I'm going to invite you to be concise. Some of you know well when I talk about the 4-sentence rule, meaning say whatever you have to say in 4 sentences or less. All right. Now, if someone of you, and I think this is true, there's a couple of people that you received the invitation that was forwarded to you. So you actually haven't attended any of my trainings or workshops, and welcome. I'm delighted you're joining us. Most people on the call have attended a workshop or rather an intensive training with me. So it's possible that not everything will make sense to you that I'm saying tonight. So just stay with it, stay open, stay flexible. One of the things I say in my trainings is you don't have to like what I say. You don't have to agree with it. Just stay open to it. All right. So now, before I jump in and start the coaching, I want to give you a short overview of the model of Predator Prey Partner. This will be useful for those of you who are hearing these concepts the first time, and perhaps nice to have a review for those of you who haven't heard about it in a while. So the 3 archetypes, Predator, Prey, Partner. Most of us are behaving as partners, meaning I'm holding high respect for myself and high respect for the other. The problem, under pressure, stress, perceived threat, crisis, or just if we're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, there's a chance we're either going to go predator or prey. And my definition of predator is she holds too much respect for herself, not enough for others. She could sound arrogant or aggressive. And this, of course, can damage relationships and loyalty. The prey, on the other hand, that's spelled P-R-E-Y, is usually a person who tends to be very nice, maybe even holding too much respect for others and not enough for themselves. So you can see how a prey could trigger even nice people to become a predator towards them. Okay, I see one person, NGU. Is that Nadia? I see you're raising your hand. Nadia, go ahead and unmute yourself and tell us your thoughts. NGU, can you hear me?
I'm actually trying to unmute that person as well, though it's not allowing me to. I don't know whether there's a problem with the system.
I just unmuted her.
Oh, well done.
Is that you? Okay, I'm gonna. Nadia?
Yes.
Did you? Yes, I can barely hear you. Speak up nice and loud.
Okay. So I wanted to.
Oh, it's almost impossible to hear you. I'm just grasping one or two words.
Like your phone.
It's very garbled, like you're underwater almost. Do you want to say type your question in the chat?
Okay.
Yeah, okay, and then I'll read it in a moment. I'm going to mute you again. Thanks, Nadia. And Nicola, I'm not able to mute her, so oh, there it is. Okay, great. Okay, so I'll pick up when I get the message from Nadia. So here's what what you all voted on was focusing the top 3 points. The top 2 were teach others to treat me with respect and state accomplishments without appearing arrogant. And then some of you also wanted to look at managing a bully or an aggressive person. So we're going to first start with Ruth. Ruth, I see you're on the call. Are you ready to jump in and to focus on your topic?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Yes, perfectly, Ruth. And let me give you the listeners an overview so they know what we're focusing on. So Ruth submitted a really juicy one. This is something that I think many of us, it's an important one to work on. She wants to position herself to negotiate for a job offer. So Ruth, you did a really nice job of succinctly stating the points. One, she wants to show her contribution to the company in a clear way. Not showing off, though stating it clearly. 2, explain her requirements in the new position, her title, salary, probation period, etc. And then finally, during the negotiation, make sure she doesn't panic. Avoid saying too much. Also manage and expose clearly her trade-offs versus their trade-off. So that last one, and then finally close the deal. Ruth, I'm not perfectly clear yet what you mean by trade-offs, though I think it'll make sense when we get to that.
Okay, perfect.
All right, so let's start with the first one. Now, Ruth, you and I know each other quite well, so you know that I'm going to jump in and I'm going to coach you if I think there's a chance that your Latin heritage is going to jump in and there's too much speed or too much information. So just be listening closely for my voice.
Okay.
So go ahead and start with, let's imagine you and I are on a phone interview. And I'm going to start by saying, so Ruth, why don't you tell me about some of the contributions and this would be contributions to the new company or contributions to your current company?
To your current company.
Okay.
They know.
Got it. Good. Ruth, go ahead and share with me some of the contributions you're making to your current company.
In my current company, I've been promoted a few times and changed positions successfully every time I change.
Good. So we had already 2 upward inflections a few times. So let's have you say that every time you pause, pretend it's the end of the sentence, because we don't want that upward inflection unintentionally sabotaging your perceived credibility.
Mm-hmm. I have had 2 promotions.
Right there. Give me a downward inflection. I've had 2 promotions.
I had 2 promotions.
Good.
I had 2. I changed positions 2 times.
Good. Very nice. And I liked how when you were uncertain what you wanted to say, we had a little filler sound and then you forced yourself to stop until you were ready to speak again. Beautiful.
I moved to another country and also successfully.
Good. And we need the word country to go down. I moved to another country and also successfully.
I moved to another country and also successfully.
Nice.
I had more than 5 different bosses.
Do you hear that, bosses?
Yes.
Good. Again.
I had 5 different bosses.
Good.
All of them in a successful way.
Excellent. So then, Ruth, whenever you feel complete with that answer, then you want to let the person know by saying, those are my main contributions.
And those are my main contributions.
Very nice. Okay, good. So now let's imagine we've had the interview for a while. We've been going back and forth. And I then invite you to share some of what you're looking for in a position. So let's hear what you say about that. So Ruth, I'd like to hear a little bit more about what you are looking for in your new position.
For this change, there are 2 things I want to obtain. There are 2 things I want to obtain.
Good. It's still, the things is still going up. There are 2 things.
There are 2 things. One is the change of my title.
Nope. Title? Nope. That's going up.
One is the change of my title.
Good.
Change of my title. And second is a 3 months probation period.
Okay, how's that feeling? That was really good. That one went down, period.
Yeah. And then, if I don't get this.
Do you hear that? This? If I don't get this.
If I don't get this, I will leave.
Ooh,
I'm ready to leave.
And you're saying this to a prospective interviewer. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
I think it feels too, for my ears, it felt a little bit too.
No, okay, so if and then these are the important points for me. I don't need to say anything. These are the important things for me.
Good. I think that's classy, nice way to say it. And let me think if how I might say it that would not be too direct. There's always that term, these points for me would be non-negotiable. So that word non-negotiable is essentially saying the same thing, except you see how I'm saying it very relaxed and with some vocal variation and pausing. So let's hear you even say that. I like the way you said it, and I want to give you a second option.
Mm-hmm. And these points for me are non-negotiable.
I'm a little happier. And these points for me would be non-negotiable. Nice and slow.
And these points for me would be non-negotiable.
Good. All right. So you're saying it slow and calm. You got that downward inflection. And I think when we did say these points for me, maybe that's going up, and that seemed to be okay.
And these points for me are non-negotiable.
Good. So me went down. That was excellent. And you had vocal variation there. Very nice. Does that feel okay for you to say it that way?
Yes.
Good. All right. So now, what part, when you say number 3, your concern is that during the negotiation, you want to avoid panicking. And when they say you're asking, don't panic when they say you're asking too much. Okay, so now, do you want to practice? Let's say you're going to state a salary and I push back.
Okay.
let's say you ask for $3 million a year, just, for,
Yeah, exactly.
and I'll push back because, usually we only pay people $2.5 million a year. So whatever it is. All right. So go ahead and ask me for that. And let's see how you react to my pushing back.
So, I mean,
so hold on a second. Let me introduce it. Ruth, I'm curious to know what would be your approximate yearly salary request?
I've been thinking carefully about this and
downward section. I've been thinking carefully about
this. The market, I have been analyzing.
Don't rush. So even, Ruth, even another way to control time and space is even when I coach you, pause before you respond. Don't quickly respond. Don't quickly speak over my words.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I think looking at the market, I've been looking at the market.
Good catch. You heard that.
I've been looking at the market. Based on my experience.
Almost. Based on my experience.
Based on my experience.
Good.
It is $1 million, $3 million.
Well, somewhere between 1 and 3 million. Okay. Good. All right. So do it again, nice and slow. That was excellent. I liked how you broke it down into short chunks and you added the part about based on my experience.
Based on my experience.
Good.
And the market analysis.
Nope.
It is free. And the market analysis.
Good.
It is $3 million.
I would, my desire would be, or my request would be.
My request will be $3 million.
So are you, Ruth? Wow. I'm sure you're worth it. I just, frankly, so now Ruth, do a little active listening as I'm speaking. I just, Ruth, my goodness, I think that's rather, so Ruth, do you know what I'm asking for?
Yeah, I understand what you are saying.
No. When I'm going to do this little babbling thing as the interviewer, and you're just going to say once or twice, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, not too much, just a little bit, and then you're going to summarize whatever I said.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness, Ruth. Well, frankly, I think that's to do that over my words, Ruth.
Mm-hmm.
Good. I think that's much higher than we pay other people in that role.
I understand your point.
Good. So now, instead of telling me you understand, how about just the active listening, summarizing? So, Amy, if I'm hearing you correctly, and then whatever I said.
So, if I'm hearing you correctly, you are surprised about my request.
I would have you do it slightly differently. Rather than focus on my surprise, you can focus on this. You normally don't pay people this salary.
Okay. If I understand you correctly, you don't pay people this amount of money.
And I think the word normally is really powerful here because you're suggesting that, oh, yes, you may not normally pay them that price and you may be motivated to pay me that price. So one more time.
Exactly.
Use my name again like you did before. So Amy, if I'm hearing you correctly. Okay, good.
If I'm hearing you correctly, you don't, if I'm hearing you correctly.
Good.
You don't pay normally the salary.
And then don't emphasize salary. You don't normally pay this salary.
Okay, you don't normally, okay, Amy, if I am hearing you correctly, you don't normally pay the salary.
Just make it nice and slow. You don't normally pay this salary.
You don't normally pay the salary.
Yes, that's right, Ruth. Okay, pause. Let's coach Amy again. Ruth, you're sounding really solid. You're sounding calm and in control and certain. And when you do the vocal variation, it's bringing your personality back in as well.
Mm-hmm.
So the last thing now, shall we move on to this part where you say also this in the third question point, also manage and expose clearly my trade-offs versus their trade-off.
Here.
I'm not clear what you mean by that, so you can help me.
I meant, I did this very quickly, but I meant I'm rejecting. So sometimes, for example, you say no 3 million, but then 2 million. And then the company, but then if it's 2 million, I want to have the company car.
So Ruth, watch out for the but, the word but. Oh, I see. So, all right. So let's say we've been negotiating. All right. So I come back to you and say, well, so what I'll say is we can give you a salary of 2.5, and you say, okay, then in that case, my request would be, and you're going to ask for more. Is that it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Well, Ruth, what I can say is that I think you have the expertise and the experience we're looking for. So you might say, oh, that's great to hear. Thank you, or something like that.
Okay. That's great to hear, Amy. Thank you.
And so I'd like to already offer you the position. Now, unfortunately, we wouldn't be able to offer you the salary that you're asking for. I could certainly offer it to you for 2.5 million.
Mm-hmm. I understand you.
So rather than tell me you understand me,
yeah.
Keep your energy kind of dropped there. You got a little heavy, you got a little serious. And I know it's just because your brain is thinking. Keep the energy up. So instead say, so Amy, if I'm hearing you correctly, you would be able to offer me the position at the rate of 2.5 million. Is that correct? So just relaxed and upbeat.
Amy, if I'm hearing you correctly, awesome. You are willing to offer me the position at a rate of 2.5 million.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, be enthusiastic. That's wonderful. Thank you, Amy, for the offer.
That's wonderful. I'm really happy. You like my profile.
Pause. No. Keep the inflections down. I'm really happy you like my profile.
I'm really happy you like my profile.
Good.
If the salary is a concern, if the salary is a concern,
good.
What about including a company car to make up for the rest?
Okay, good. All right, so let me give it you'll be the interviewer for a second, and I'll see how I might say it. Ruth, I'm delighted to hear that you'd like to offer me the position, and I hear that the salary would be 2.5 million. Thank you for that. And what I think for me, what would make it appealing is if we were to, perhaps there's some creativity that's possible here. For example, what would really be beneficial to me in addition would be a company car and having access to one. Is that something that we could do, the salary of 2.5 million with the addition of a car? So you're letting, it's like you're being relaxed and flexible and curious and creative. So let's hear you say that.
Amy, I'm really happy. I'm really delighted to hear that you like my CV, my experience.
My
experience. Can we find some creative solution to get to a economic agreement? What about?
Okay, hold on. Don't rush it. Downward inflection. Instead of can we, how about Amy? What if I'm wondering if we can get a bit creative. How about, and then make the suggestion.
I'm wondering if we can be a bit creative.
Good.
How about including a company car in the perks?
Oh, that was good. I like that. Perks, and you just left it there. So I have to say, Ruth, from the perspective of an interviewer and if anybody listening has any other thoughts and comments and feedback for Ruth, feel free to put it in the notes. You're sounding relaxed and confident, sure of yourself. And the only area where you're sabotaging your credibility is with that upward inflection. Mm-hmm. And the good news is that I think you're able to hear it, because when you did it a couple of times, you corrected yourself without me correcting you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say you're going to want to go back to 3 to 5 minutes a day of low stress practice, drilling yourself on that downward inflection until you move it to mastery.
Okay.
So Ruth, let me ask you, from this practice, and thank you again for being brave and willing to volunteer, what, other than the inflection, what else did you find useful?
The no rush.
Not rushing, yes.
No rushing, together with the feeling that you are that you agree, but you don't talk. Just saying,
So the active listening?
The active listening, yeah.
You did active listening and active summarizing. And again, the other piece is make sure you get that word but out of your vocabulary. That will help.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you, Ruth.
Thank you, Amy.
Excellent. Okay. Now, I wanted to see if there's anybody on the call before I move to the second role play. Is there any burning comments or questions that people want to raise? Either take yourself off mute or type in a group chat. Feel free to do that. In the meantime, while we're waiting for that, and before I invite Karen to join me on the call, I'd like to give you a little, share with you a success that happened to me on Sunday. So let me back up by about a week. I spent my holidays in the US, and I flew back last Wednesday. And I arrived in Geneva Wednesday morning after an overnight flight. Then I got home, and 6, 7, 8 hours later, I hopped on a train to Chamonix, to France. And I went to France for a 4-day team retreat. So and this is the very first team retreat we've had. We had an amazing time. Nicola and I are still talking about how fun it was. Aside from all the fun we had, we worked very hard. So we were doing videos, and we were having conversations and brainstorming, and one thing was leading to another. So my brain was on for, all coming off jet lag and then directly to work. So it was a bit of a challenge for me. Now imagine Sunday afternoon, I hop on the train, and I've just gone cross-country skiing. So it was my one treat that I gave myself on Sunday. And now I'm physically and pretty used up. And I get on the train and it's one of those little mountain trains. There's just a couple of other people in the train car. And I pick up the phone to call a friend. And I have this very animated conversation with my friend. And we're laughing and joking. And, maybe on the phone with her 7, 8 minutes, and I hang up. And I look across the aisle, because there's this woman, she's like in her 60s, and she's sitting across from somebody who I would say is probably her adult son. And he's sort of snoozing. And I look at her, and she sort of has this blank face look on her face. And so I smile to, I guess, probably just to engage her or to say hello. And she gives me this look of disgust. She rolls her eyes and goes, "Oh." I was, as you guys can imagine, I was kind of perplexed and confused, because it pretty much seemed like she was intending that for me. Though clearly the message I wasn't getting it clearly enough, so she had to make it more obvious. And so she added this, "Oh, so rude." And I'm like, oh my gosh, that one was definitely for me. Now, here's what was fascinating. Even though I was physically and mentally tired, I was able to access partner, because I stayed calm, and I remember feeling curious. And so I said to her very gently, I said, "Oh, what was rude?" And she said, "You were speaking so loud." Now, we all know I'm American and I'm an extrovert. So we're going to assume that I was speaking rather loud. What was fascinating though is I only had a tiny, tiny pang of shame or guilt or embarrassment. And I just felt a little bit of a discomfort. Though what was amazing was I very calmly and gently said to her, "Oh, thank you for telling me. If it happens again, be sure to let me know." Now, of course, this was probably not the reaction she was expecting. And she just said, and she looked away and looked out the window for the rest of her trip. Though I was gobsmacked that I could stay so calm. And this time what was different was that even internally, I was calm. I was a little bit surprised, though I was mostly gentle and calm, and that I got to even, obviously be partner with her. So that is my 2019 kicking off the year success story. All right. So now, Karen, are you ready for our coaching session? And Nicola, yes.
Me?
Yes. Karen, can you go ahead and say something so I know I can hear you?
I didn't realize we had definitely a coaching session. I thought it was an option.
Oh, so how are you feeling about it? Would you prefer not to be coached, or would you like?
Well, I've forgotten now what it was I was interested in. I think it was making judgments.
It was very direct. It was very clear. You said avoiding expressing criticism.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And I got to tell you, this is a brilliant one.
Yeah.
Because many of us struggle with this because we think if I can't say it correctly or kindly, I shouldn't say it at all. Or maybe what your point was is you feel like criticism, it's not acceptable. And I'm not convinced. I think that it's important for us to express ourselves. We just want to do it in a way that's going to increase the chances of it being well received.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
All right. So, Karen, if that's what we're going to, since that's what we're going to focus on, what I'd like to hear from you in 4 or 5 sentences, go ahead and tell me what a specific scenario is in your mind. And you don't feel like you don't have to paint it politely or correctly. You can just be real juicy about it, and then we'll rework it.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't really think it through before this meeting, but I have a situation where I think, making suggestions to my daughter, and she sees it as criticism.
Got it.
And I think she might be being oversensitive,
Mm-hmm.
but then again, maybe I'm not hearing it the way she hears it.
Cool. I already like the curiosity of, maybe she's hearing it differently than I'm intending it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So for the group of the folks on the call, you give us an idea. Your daughter is 24?
28.
Okay, great. So she's 28. And you guys have a great relationship.
Yes.
That's good. That's the perception I've had. So the fact that she would take it as criticism, that's interesting because she doesn't seem to be someone who's overly sensitive. Is that accurate?
I don't know about overly, but she certainly, how do I put this? I don't know, maybe it's the mother, maybe it's because of the role I'm in,
right?
The mother, and there's going to be some resistance, whereas if she heard it from someone else, it might be different. I'm trying that downward inflection, which sounds really useful, but I haven't practiced it at all. So yeah, I think she is sensitive about kind of life directions.
Give me a downward inflection. Life directions.
Directions, yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. So it could be that phase in her life. It could be the relationship. So what we'll do, Karen, is we're going to pretend I'm your daughter, and you're going to give me whatever the feedback is. And I'm going to be listening from both imagining if I was hearing it as coming from my mom, and also as a 28-year-old who's looking for her life path. And also and then I'll be jumping in out as the coach. One thing I will tell you, Karen, is the word but, even though you may be saying it innocently, it can trigger defensiveness from the other person.
Okay.
Right. So as you're giving me the feedback, if you say, but I'll offer you a replacement for that.
Great.
Give me downward flexion. Great. Nice.
Is that downward? Didn't sound downward. Okay.
Yeah. If you, I know I haven't really coached you on the inflection. So I'll coach you anyway for everyone else's benefit. And you may not actually hear the difference until you go back and you could re-listen to the audio of the call.
I'm not recording it.
I am, and it'll be available. So.
Okay.
All right. So Karen, let's imagine you want to give me some feedback. So let's hear how that sounds.
Oh boy. Okay, I thought you were going to come up with a scenario. Can
you remember the last time she reacted to something?
I'm having trouble with that. I think you're trying to do too much. You're, as my mother would say, used to say, you're burning the candle at both ends.
Okay, so if I heard someone say that to me, especially my mom, yes, I would perceive that as a judgment.
Right.
And so now, Karen, what we're going to do is we're going to funnel your feedback to her through nonviolent communication.
Right up my alley.
Exactly. All right. So you know the 4 steps. I'll review them for everyone else listening. Observations, feelings, needs, requests. So the observation is what Karen's going to do in a moment. She's going to give her what she says of whatever she means by doing too much. She's going to say it as if it is observable behavior. So let's just hear that one or two sentences, Karen, about what you're observing your daughter doing.
I see you doing a lot, and
that's still an assessment, which would be considered a judgment. So
yes,
use my name, Amy, as your daughter. So Amy, I've noticed that you've been, and then fill in the blank. See, as if it's because a camera lens can't pick up a lot. They can pick up specific things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've noticed that. Yeah, I'm having trouble with this.
It takes time. That's okay. I'll keep helping. You just give it a shot, and I'll feed it back to you if it's not working yet.
That you have many activities on your plate.
That's better.
It's not very specific, is it?
No, though that's better. So, Amy, I noticed that you're involved in more activities than usual. It's still a little bit vague, though there's a measure there of more than normal. Would that be an accurate statement to say it that way?
Well, it's not really more than usual. It's a general habit.
Right. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, Amy, I noticed that you are involved in a lot of activities, and you don't have, and you don't see, and sometimes it's also okay. The way you can get around with a judgment is, and from my perspective, it appears as if it seems a bit padding, though these are important phrases. From my perspective, it appears as if you don't have a lot of downtime.
Mm-hmm.
So let's hear you say that, Karen, and I'll see how I respond to it.
Amy, you've got a lot going on, and from my perspective, it seems that you don't have enough time out.
So a lot going on is a judgment. So Amy, it seems that it's tricky. Amy, I've noticed you're involved in a lot of different activities. That sounds different to me than you've got a lot going on. So try that.
Okay. I noticed that you're involved in a lot of different activities. And from my perspective.
Pause, wait. Excellent. Oh. That was excellent. I didn't hear any judgment. So now say it again, much slower, and give me a downward inflection.
Amy, I noticed that you are involved in a lot of different activities.
Right there,
Activities. And from my perspective, does that work as in my opinion?
Yep. And from my perspective.
I see that it's
you don't have
stressing you out.
No. You don't have much downtime.
Okay. And from my perspective, I see that you don't have much downtime.
It appears as if you don't have.
It appears as if. Okay.
You want to let her know that you don't know. It's not black and white. You don't know for sure, and the more you're showing, I may be biased here, the less biased you sound.
The more you're showing that I may be biased. Yeah, sure, of course. Mm-hmm.
Right? So and that makes it harder for someone to get defensive.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, great. So that's only the first step. And so step 2 and 3, you're going to talk about what feelings you have and what needs you have. This is not about her yet.
No.
When I see that, Amy, I feel
sad because
Any other feelings other than sad, just in case? Sad, anxious, worried, stressed?
Anxious, yeah. I feel worried. Yeah, you're not happy with that word.
Yeah, no, that's nice. That's very nice. I feel worried and...
Okay, I want to get to the need because I'm not sure what the need is behind this, which is normally my challenge with NVC.
Got it.
So I feel because I don't want you to be too stressed.
Hold on one second. So the feelings, give me just at least 2. Worried and anxious, or sad and...
Sad and worried.
Sad and worried. Great. I feel sad and worried.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're just going to keep it a little bit scientific because I have a need for...
I have a need for... I'm thinking the word acceptance, but that's not what I have a need for.
You have a need for understanding?
Yeah. Well, I have a need as her mother to feel that she's managing her life in the right rhythm, putting it in those words. But that's, again, obviously.
That's a but. And
that's that's my need. I'm not sure it qualifies.
I'm not quite sure if it's a clear need or it could be more of a strategy to get a need.
Yeah.
So let me remind you, your needs are for, we have physical needs, we have communication needs, we have integrity, integration, authority, self-expression, self-alignment. So do you have a need for balance and reassurance that she's taking care of herself?
Yeah, I think certainly the latter, but that's also sort of imputing my needs onto her. So I'm not sure if that's legitimate. You know what I mean?
Your need, you have your strategy to meet your need for reassurance and safety and caretaking is the strategy is you want her to have more balance in her life.
Yes.
And she may or may not do that, and it may or may not fulfill your need. Though that's I'm guessing that that's the relationship.
Yeah. And I'm not sure about the word balance. It's more, I don't want her to exhaust herself.
So safety, it's like,
yeah. I mean, the thing is with needs, I'm never quite sure to what extent we can ask for the other person's behavior.
Don't worry about that yet. That's the strategy. You can ask for whatever you want. You may not get it.
Right.
So do you have a need for safety and health and security? Any of those?
Yeah, but those are for her. Not.
I think. I see what you're saying. I think, and maybe this is too big a. We won't come to a conclusion or an agreement fully. Mm-hmm. So my sense is that I think you want reassurance that she's going to be healthy and safe. Is that?
That's certainly part of it. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So we may not have it completely resolved, though. You have a need for reassurance.
Okay.
Is there any truth to that? Is there any?
There's some truth. I'm just debating whether I actually have a need for her to listen to me, and
so maybe you have a need for contribution, because if she takes on your advice, then you'll feel you've offered value.
Well, that would be great. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. That has a little more energy around it.
Yeah, because sure, of course, I'm very conscious of the issue of control, and that so often we really want to control other people, especially in a parent-child relationship or something like that.
Right.
I mean, even in not a very dramatic way. So I like the word contribution because that's kind of a very soft control. So, yeah. Or influence, shall we say.
And there may also be the kid. Sometimes, for me, sometimes I'm motivated to contribute because I want to feel like I'm offering value and that I matter and that I count and that I'm important.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's interesting. There's different nuances to this. There's different layers to it.
Yes.
So let's now just take it from the top. Even if we don't have it perfect, let's go through the first 3 points. Observe behaviors. What are your feelings and needs?
Okay. So, Amy, dear, I do feel that from my perspective, you are involved in an awful lot of activities.
What's an awful lot? Because there's a judgment.
Oh, many. Well, it's all kind of judgmental or not specific enough. You are doing. What did you say? You're involved in many activities?
And the good news is you can always go back and listen to the recording. I think it was something like, Amy, I've been noticing that you're involved in multiple activities. Mm-hmm. And from my perspective, you don't have, there's not so much downtime.
And from my perspective, you aren't giving yourself enough downtime.
No, that's very different. You're not giving yourself versus you don't have. I think it's different. There is more judgment when you're not. I'm doing something wrong there. Whereas the other one's a little.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yes. Okay.
Good touch.
I see. Mm-hmm. So from my perspective, what was the wording? You don't have enough downtime?
You have.
You may not have.
You have less downtime. You don't have as much. You don't have the. You don't have as much downtime.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. And this makes me feel a bit sad and worried.
Downward inflection and worried.
And because I'm not sure how this links to because I want to contribute to your life.
To your well-being?
To your well-being, yes. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I'm not sure about that connection there.
Yeah, it might.
Why am I worried? Because
watch out for the but. And
Okay.
And I realize I want to contribute to your well-being.
And I realize I want to contribute to your well-being.
Or I mention this because I want to contribute to your well-being.
I mention this because I want to contribute to your well-being.
Okay, great. So again, this may not be the finished product, though I think we're moving in that direction. Final step for everyone on the call. Now Karen is going to give her request. And the request could be like, as you know, Karen, could just be, Amy, would you be willing to tell me what you've heard me say? Or Amy, would you be willing to tell me how that feels for you? Or Amy, would you be willing to give yourself a day off from all your activities? So
I like the second one. Amy, would you be willing to tell me how what I said feels to you?
Well, I don't know, Mom. I just and she could respond in many different ways. And then what you would do there, Karen, if I say, well, I just feel like you're butting into my business, or you just don't like what my decisions are, my choices, whatever she says, then your job is to respond. Okay, so Amy, what you heard was, and then you may need to ask again, and how does that feel for you? Or is that, am I right, Amy? Is that frustrating for you? So your whole job, Karen, here is to simply connect deeper with your daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Because you want to keep the rapport going, because that will increase the chances that the friction will reduce and that the openness will increase.
Okay. But it's always a question of how you word it in order to keep the connection deep.
Right. So we're doing two things. We worked a lot on the wording with the structure of NVC. And then the next step is whatever comes out of your daughter's mouth, you simply do the active listening, summarize, and then repeat it back.
Okay.
All right. So ask me again, and then I'm going to respond, and then you're going to.
So, Amy, how does it feel? How do you feel about what I've just told you?
Well, I mean, there's just a lot of really interesting things to do. And I think it's really important for me to have these experiences.
Okay. So I hear you say that it's important for you to have many experiences.
Inflection, experiences.
And you are enjoying what you are doing.
Yeah. Yes, I am.
Okay.
So now I'm Karen, so I'm going to step out. At playing the role of your daughter, I'm not feeling so defensive. I'm feeling like I'm willing to be in a conversation. So then the next level might be, Amy, and I'm scared and I'm worried, so you can repeat the feelings you're having, you can repeat your needs, Amy, and then you can make a different request. Would you be willing to put in a safety mechanism if you're to avoid overwhelm or whatever it is that you're concerned about?
My overwhelm or hers?
Her overwhelm.
Okay.
This is just the beginning of the iceberg. This is the beginning of the conversation. Right. And your job is to just keep the flow going so that she's willing and open to listen to you. She's not getting defensive, and you're feeling like you're able to authentically express yourself.
Okay.
So Karen, I can tell, I really admire the commitment you're making to taking your level of, this most important relationship and taking it to another, even the next level of care and concern, and the honesty you have with, when many of us want to control relationships. That is so true and important for, I think, people to hear, myself included. So I would encourage you, because NVC is, in my opinion, practically like learning a new language.
Yes.
Yeah, I would encourage you to keep asking yourself, what am I feeling? What am I needing? What requests do I have? So you're sort of just mechanically practicing these formulas and not just when you need them.
Yes. it takes a lot of work. And as you said, it is like learning a new language.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you, Karen. I really appreciate your openness.
Thank you.
So we're going to start to wrap up the call, everyone. We've got a few minutes remaining. And before we do, I want to just share one last conversation I had today with a group from Lithuania. I had a guy on the call. He said, Amy, you're not going to believe it. Everyone in my course, and this is with 50 people with an executive MBA course, he said, they're telling me I'm a different person. I said, well, how is that? What's different? He said, I've changed two things. I stopped saying but, and I started doing active listening. So that combination together is incredibly powerful because he's removing the but, which is removing resistance or defensiveness, and he's increasing the active listening, which is a way to develop a sense of respect for others. So before I let you go, keep in mind that, let me see, what do I want to tell you? Upcoming events. And Nicola, if I've left anything off, feel free to jump in at the end. The next webinar is going to be, I think, in April. If you have that date, Nicola, feel free to let me know what it is. And we have our next Leadership Presence Open program. That is going to be in April on the 2nd and 3rd. We still have a few spots available. Feel free to follow me on Instagram or Facebook, and you can find me at Amy Carroll Coaching. Also, feel free to take a screenshot of the social media channels on the webinar slide. You may need to switch to full screen on your device in order to see them all at the bottom. If you want to check out my Partner in Action podcast series, which is I launched it about a year or so ago. You can find it on my website. You go to iTunes, search Carroll Coaching Communication. And also, if you want a free half hour of complimentary coaching and you have a partner success story that you would like to share, let me know. I'll set up an hour phone call and I'll give you a half hour of complimentary coaching, and then I'll interview you for a 10-minute podcast interview on your partner success story. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to go out there and be before I say it, let's see, April 16th. That is the next webinar. So you've got that date on your calendar. Nicola, before I sign off, is there anything else that you wanted to add?
No, there's nothing else to add to that. Thanks, Amy.
Okay, wonderful. All right, everyone, go out there and be the best partners you can be.